Well, here is a video that I never expected or imagined to even think about making. E. coli has been found in the irrigation water in my city, and I've received the official notice in the mail, and there's some interesting things in here and even recommendations from the CDC. So I want to go through this, talk about the details, talk about the context, and talk about how I'm approaching it here at my house. Here we go. So before I get started, I briefly just want to point out that there are people who are genuinely impacted by this. There's people and families that are suffering and fighting this E. coli in the hospital and with doctors and all the rest. So want to express genuine concern and sympathy for them, and hope that anyone who is impacted by this has a speedy recovery. So just as a way of context and background, where I live, we have two different water sources. We have the culinary water, which comes into the house. We use that for all the house water. And then we have a secondary irrigation line that's used for the lawns, gardens, and all of that. They've had a secondary irrigation line here for 30 years. It's never been an issue, and it's not only supplying water for irrigation purposes, it's also the same infrastructure that's used for the fire department, and it supplies water to all the fire hydrants throughout the city. So kind of an interesting setup. We're a little bit different than most cities here in Utah in that we have that infrastructure, which means that our secondary irrigation water is never shut off, even in the wintertime. It still runs because it has to support the fire hydrants. And so when it's time to winterize the sprinkler system here, we have to turn that off and blow out the lines where that supply comes into the property. So the notice that I received, of course, mentions that E. coli was found in sediment samples that were taken out of several different water resources here in town. There's currently 12 cases that we know of E. coli, and some of them are children. So it's kind of a big deal. The city's trying to get on top of this. They're trying to do whatever they can to fix the problem. And one of the things that they're doing, of course, is notification. They're trying to get everybody aware. It's been on social media, it's been on state, local news. People know, but the city's taken the steps of sending out these mailers, these notices, which are on harder paper, thicker paper, so whatever. Want to go through this really quick, just kind of talk about what they're recommending and what they're reminding residents to do when it comes to using this secondary irrigation water. So the first thing that they do is they just kind of remind everybody that pressurized irrigation water is not the same as culinary water that comes into the house, in that it's not treated, it's not filtered, it's just raw water. You get what you get. It's just for watering your lawns and gardens, and it's for, like I said earlier, the fire department. It supplies the fire hydrants. After they mention that, they say that the Center for Disease Control and Prevention currently recommends that residents do not water their lawns. They also strongly advise to exercise caution when consuming uncooked produce from personal gardens that have been watered using the irrigation water. These fruits and vegetables should only be consumed after thoroughly cooked, as cooking can eliminate the risk of E. coli infection. Washing may not eliminate the bacteria. Then they go on to say, though it is not the norm to treat pressurized irrigation water, the city has created a treatment plan to help deactivate and lower the levels of bacteria. And they go on to say that they did a shock treatment on a couple of the reservoirs, and they're continuing to monitor the situation and sampling and trying to do whatever they can to get the bacteria levels down so that they don't have any more cases like the 12 that are currently known at this point. So kind of interesting. They're telling us that we shouldn't be watering our lawns right now. I personally haven't stopped. The only way that you can really get the E. coli is if you ingest it. So they go on to say in the notice, don't drink the water, don't play in the water, don't use it for splash pads or water slides or slip and slides or things like that. And just to be cautious with any food that's grown that has been watered with the irrigation water. So kind of common sense stuff here. We have used splash pads and slip and slides this year. It was earlier in the year before these notices went out and before rumors started circulating that there was an E. coli issue here. So we've since stopped that. The kids know that they can't use the hoses that I have hooked up to the irrigation line. Anytime that they want to use a splash pad or a slip and slide, they got to hook it up to the house water, and it'll be much safer that way. So as far as my response to this goes and how if I'm changing anything, I'm really not. If anything, we're just kind of making sure the kids understand why they can't play with the hoses that are hooked up to the irrigation line. If they want to do any kind of water stuff out here, they need to use the culinary water. Easy as that. We don't drink that water anyways, the irrigation water. It's disgusting. It's really just for watering purposes and for the fire hydrants here. That's really all it is. It's as simple as that. If anything, this is a really good reminder for everybody about that. For me personally, I'm still watering regularly 2.5 times a week right now. And one change that I've really made is that when I'm out here working all day and I'm getting hot and gross and I just want to cool off, I have refrained from walking through and just cooling off from the sprinkler water. Done that before, lots of times. It's kind of a go-to for me. We don't have a pool, so I have to cut that habit, just go in, jump in the shower, no big deal. So other than that, it's business as usual. We're just taking this as a helpful reminder and making sure that we're doing our part to keep our kids safe. Other than that, everything's looking good. I'm happy with where we're at. It's time for another round of fertilizer. I want to do a video on the new spiker spreader that I picked up this year for my business and kind of go through that and kind of give you the details there. So stick around for that. I've also got a really exciting announcement coming very, very soon. So if you're not already subscribed, please consider subscribing. It's one click away. Would appreciate that very much. Thank you all for your support. And if you have any questions about this E. coli situation or how I'm handling it, let me know down in the comments. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you next time.